Hey guys, we're just waiting for more people to show up, and then I will get going with the gouache demonstration. Thank you guys for joining. We're going to be starting in a minute. Just waiting for some more people to join before I begin. Hey guys, just 1 minute. Okay, I think we're gonna get started here. Hi everyone, my name is Raquel Kalpakoff. I was asked by Art Central to do a live demonstration on Winsor Newton gouache paints. I'm super thankful for this opportunity. I'm very excited. I'm a Slocal artist, student, and athlete. Love being in Slow. Love this amazing store, guys. They're so helpful. I've been going to this store for forever. It's their 10-year anniversary, so they're getting a bunch of local artists to talk about and give demonstrations on various mediums. So I will be bringing the camera over here to give the demonstration so you guys can get up close and see what's going on. Just wanted to talk for a minute. I have been painting for a while. I started painting with my grandma when I was young. I'm a very messy person, messy painter. I think that's one of the reasons is because I started painting, or I started doing like real art with pastels, and then eventually worked my way to acrylic, both very messy mediums, and it wasn't until recently that I started working with gouache. I mean, I guess it's not that recent, but compared to how long I've been doing acrylic, it feels relatively recent. When I bring the camera over here and I start demonstrating, I'm going to be explaining a little bit more about the paints and about what gouache is. And if you guys ever have any questions, just drop them in the video. I'll be repeating that throughout the video. Again, a little bit about myself. I have lived in Slow my whole life. I am a student at the local high school. We'll be heading to college next year. I have always been painting, but it wasn't until COVID that I started having more time to paint, and it wasn't until then that I started to create, it wasn't until then that I created my own little art business, Rocket Artistry. I used to be Rocket Photography. I used to do mainly just photography, but now I will paint and then turn those into prints. So it was then that Art Essential reached out and asked me to do this little live. So in like a little minute, I've got some people here. Hi. I will be starting the video. Starting the demonstration. Okay, I think I'm gonna bring it over. Sorry about this. Sorry, I'm gonna flip you guys. There's no smooth way to do this. Okay, so I actually put up some of my little pieces. I recently started making these cards, so I thought I would just set it up, make it look all pretty. Here you go. Okay, so currently, if you head over to Art Central and you use the code Raquel, at Art Central, and you purchase this Winsor Newton gouache from February 12th to 15th, they will give you 35% off of that paint. And it is the paint that I will be demonstrating. They have larger tubes, and then these wonderful little guys. These will last you so long. I will show you. You don't need a lot of paint. One of the fun things about gouache. So, as I mentioned earlier, I am, for most of the time, I have been a acrylic artist, but it wasn't until recently that I started gouache. And here is a mini example of what I do. These small little 5x7, or it's what I'm going to be demonstrating. Again, another little small one. So the difference between acrylic and gouache, or watercolor and gouache, it's the big question. People think gouache is just pretty much watercolor, but it's like if you took acrylic and watercolor and you had a baby. The child of those two is gouache, because it's a water-based, highly pigmented paint. This is just my messy little palette here, so I'm going to be showing you guys how to activate the paint and just start from scratch as well. So obviously this looks like some weird little doodad right here, but I'm going to eventually be painting that guy right there. I took that photo in Hawaii about a year ago. So one of my favorite things to do is to paint my photography, paint my photos. Here, I'm going to bring you guys up a little bit. So what you'll need when painting with gouache is obviously water, the paints. I have my variety of paintbrushes, which I will get into later. I like having a sponge, which you can tell is used for paint, and then napkin or paper towel, and then your paper. So I'm going to start with talking about the brushes really quick. Watercolor is probably the kindest paint if I'm comparing acrylic, gouache, and watercolor. Watercolor is the nicest to your brushes, so usually when I get new brushes, I'll start them out as watercolor brushes, and then I'll move my way to having them as gouache, and then to acrylic. And I'm kind of a brutal painter. I, again, started with pastel, made my way to acrylic, and then now gouache, so relatively aggressive painter with the brushes. So these were watercolor brushes, and then once I got them a little beat up, they're now gouache brushes. For the paints, today again I'll be using Winsor Newton, but I also have a couple other brands, but for this video I will be mainly demonstrating these. If we're talking about paper, here I just cut out some of a watercolor paper pad. Cut the piece up 9x12, cut it up. Okay, just a pad of paper, pretty nice, thick watercolor paper. And something I actually learned recently is that you can also use, it says multimedia, but you can also use pastel paper for gouache. I did some little swatches right here. You can tell it actually holds very nicely. And then I know some people like to paint in notebooks. I'm not a huge fan of that. Let's sit backwards. But I will go in and use gouache in some of my watercolor notebooks, get some details in there. And then sometimes I'll do more actual setups. Those are just some studies that I did. So I'm going to talk really quickly, or show you guys. Don't know where I put my palette. Oh, here it is. Right here. So I'm going to show really quick how easy it is to reactivate. So some of you may know, you can reactivate watercolor relatively quickly and gouache, but it takes, you can see that's coming to life right there. All it was a little bit of water here. And you can bring it back pretty easily. So I will be painting this guy right here. I wish I could show them both at the same time, but that would be a little difficult. So I'm kind of just going to start off and just getting some base colors, talking you guys through it. It does take a while for it to dry. I like to use a lot of water when I use it. When I use gouache. So I am going just to show you guys a little bit about what I do, and then I have a painting of the same thing that I just like did beforehand, and I'll just be using that to show you guys how I do my detail, so that we don't have to wait for it to dry. So I'm probably just going to start really quickly by just erasing some of this really quick. I made it too heavy. Okay, so everyone has their own ways of painting, obviously. Some people like to kind of work their way across, others like to use layers. I'm going to say this again, started as an acrylic painter, so I'm used to using the medium as if it was acrylic, using a lot of layers. And because it is pigmented, you don't have to go leave space for your white lights. I know watercolor, you have to leave space because you can't do like a light yellow over dark blue. Like, that's not how watercolor works. But because gouache is a higher pigmentation, you can layer it. So I'm going to reactivate some of these paints really quick and do some mixing of some new colors. And then I will show you guys. I have a watercolor brush that holds so much water in it, and I'll use it just to reactivate the gouache because I don't want to mess up my brush. Of course, I left it. No, it is not here with me right now, but just showing you guys a little bit of, oh, sorry. I'm gonna bring this up here a little bit. Yes, I am a lefty. Yes, it does cause problems. Oh, sorry. Okay, so as you can see, this is very, very thin. So it looks like watercolor. And you can thin it down. You can eventually, once I get a little more into this paint, you can see that it gets very, very bright. And that's one of the things that I absolutely love about gouache, is how vibrant it can be. Again, I'm going to show you a quick little, this is a print of a gouache painting that I did a while ago, but you can see how bright it is. This is not like, I didn't change the colors at all. That is just, it comes out very, very bright. Okay, now I think I'm gonna start squeezing some paints out, just to show you guys. So this little guy, picked it up from Art Central when they kind enough to ask me to do this live video with them. And so you can see it's super, oh, little bubble. Super, super bright. And that is a lot of paint. It doesn't seem like that much, and it doesn't seem like this little thing would go very far, but I have had it for a while. I've had this thing for so long, just in comparison to my hand, it's like the size of my okay. Had it for forever, and it honestly looks relatively, I mean, it's a little beat up, but there's still a lot of paint left. Okay. Now, I'm a little OCD, so I like to go purple to red on my palette so that it doesn't get the colors all mixed into brown. The red next to the green and all of that. So I'm just going to mix a bright green here just to show you guys what I am doing. See, that was a little dark. I know I'm talking a lot at the beginning of the video, but towards the end I will be mainly just painting. Okay. So we're going to move this over. Now, obviously, big difference in the thickness, the look, just the way it comes out. But if I want to water it down, I can very easily just kind of throw some water on that. I'm back. Can you guys? Okay, there we go. I'm just going to put a base down. So typically, actually, this isn't how I do it. I'm kind of just not really totally paying attention because I'm talking to you guys. But at this moment, I'm just going in, throwing in the shadows a little bit. just getting the color blocking. This is actually relatively similar to what I normally do, but we'll just kind of go get the darker colors, lighter colors. Promise, it always looks weird at the beginning. Always. Trust me, talk to anyone that has to sit there and either hear me vent to them when a piece isn't going the way I want, or they see the way it looks in the middle and they're like, what is that going to turn into? And then eventually, hopefully, it turns into what was expected. And then I asked earlier or recommended getting a sponge. This is what I use to clean my brush. It's just really handy. I mean, you can use a paper towel, but I don't like, having to rip that out, Or not rip it out, but waste it. They don't last forever. The sponge has lasted me forever. Sustainable. And remember, if you guys have any questions about the medium, please just feel free to drop it in and I will definitely get to it. I don't see any questions. Thank you to everyone that showed up, is here. Again, so one of the big problems that I run into when I paint with gouache specifically, is I don't give it enough time to dry, so it kind of can sometimes turn a little mushy. But eventually I'll make it work. But that's one of the reasons that I painted a second version, just so that I can quickly skip to it, so that you guys don't have to wait for it to dry, because, again, this is just a quick little demonstration. I'm just trying to show you guys the process that I do. Okay, that is very wet, as you can see. And also you can, again, it looks very strange at the beginning, always does. Yes, oh, thank you. Slay Cho. Yes, gouache is honestly so much fun. It's just so fun to just kind of play around, see what happens. And I like that you can be a little messy with it. Like, it's just so bright and can be so much fun. Again, so while it's drying, just for a second, I'm going to show you guys some of the pieces that I've done recently. Because when I use gouache, I typically do these little ones, just as practice, because my main medium is acrylic. But with just these fun little ones, again, just practices. I'm trying to do like something every day. I'm really starting to fall in love with these greens that I've been doing recently. This one's not done, but just showing you guys. It's just got so, the colors can just be so much fun. And then it's fun to try out different things as well. Okay, so I'm going to just move this along. And then once I get to a certain point, I'll just move on to the second one. I'm just gonna... Remember, it can be layered. That's like what I love about gouache, is that it doesn't have to start out looking the way you want it to, because you will, without a doubt, go back and go over it. Or go over some of it at least. Okay, I'm gonna get some darker colors in here in a sec. This is not Winsor gouache, but it's actually Arteza. These paints I've had forever. These little things lasted me for months and I'm still using them. But this one, again, this is gonna last me forever. And remember, if you go to Art Central for the next 3 days, February 15th is the last day, and you use the code, you tell them code Raquel, you can get 35% off Winsor Newton gouache. So now eventually it'll start looking more like the waterfall that I'm going to be painting, or that I am painting. I'm just kind of blocking in some color. Getting It's funny, I have done, well, I started this one just to practice, just because I thought that I would switch to the other one halfway through, because, again, it takes a while to dry. But they always turn out so differently if you do the same thing twice. You can see it's getting a little wet and the colors are starting to bleed together. It's when I need to start taking a break. But since we're on live, I thought I'd just go for it, not take the time to wait completely. Remember, if you guys have any questions, feel free to just drop them. Leave a comment. Now I'm kind of just fiddling. Also, one of my favorite things about gouache, since it is water-based, if I get it on my clothes or spill my water cup full of paint, it won't completely stain. It will come out, which I definitely appreciate. For those of you, if any of you, or I know some of you guys know me personally, I am a messy person. But that is also one of the things I love about art, is that I can be messy and it's not weird. Oh. Switching to a bigger brush. I actually didn't even realize I was using this one. This is the brush that I'll normally start with. It's rounded, very, very smooth. I really, really like the feel of it. And yeah, it's thicker, but I always start with bigger brushes just to get more space covered, and then I'll move in with the smaller brush later. Again, this is me right now, just kind of showing you guys the process, what I do. Some people, again, work their way across the page. I kind of go just like switching colors throughout whatever I'm doing, and then I'll fill the page with whatever color I'm using at that time and where it needs to be, and just kind of assess in the painting, or in the photo, where that color is, and just kind of throwing it around. As you can see, now that I've got those darker colors, it's starting to look more like, I mean, I guess you can't see the photo, but for those of you that saw it earlier, I'll show it in a minute again. Probably gonna do, I just realized I didn't do the sky yet, probably just get a little bit of blue here. And so you can see, that's obviously way too dark. I wanted it really, really light. Acting up. That's kind of it. We'll see. I'll change it maybe later. So one thing to know about gouache is the lights dry darker than they look when you first put them on, and the darks dry lighter. So this white, give it a minute, it won't be as bright as when I just put it on. And this black, it's starting to lighten. Just kind of gonna throw some highlights around. Happy Friday, you guys. Again, I know that I'm just throwing white around, but it will dry darker, and then it'll help when I start to add the other highlights that aren't pure white, but more green. Just cleaning my brush. Okay, so this is gonna take a while to dry, but it's okay. So one thing that I really like about gouache is how, because it's so bright, you can really just play around with the colors and it can turn out looking pretty cool. And adding some purple to some trees, and I don't know, I'll probably add some purple to these rocks, but just throwing in some accent colors that might not usually go can really add some fun details to the piece. So while that's drying, I'm just going to show you guys really quick on a little scrap paper that I have right here. Let's try this black. So again, if I get it really wet, you can see it looks like watercolor. But if I go in, hold up, use this brush, and I get the thick part of the paint. Oh. See, that's what happens when you don't use any water. Gouache does need water, but it can be really, really thick. Look at the difference. One is almost acrylic-like, the other one's more watercolor. So that's the fun with gouache. That is, if someone asks, if you're to take anything from this video, it is just the fun of a water-based, highly pigmented paint. I'm just going to go in with some brighter colors right now. Or not brighter colors, yellow. I'm using this a little more watered down just to because I don't want it to stand out too much. It's a very bright yellow, so I thought I would just see how it goes with a little bit of color. See, I told you, messy. So again, for those of you that haven't seen it, oh, thank you for the comment. I know, it's fun with the contrast. This is what the reference is. Photo I took a while ago. Again, I'm a photographer and artist. If you follow me on Art Rocket. Again, Art Central, 35% off Winsor Newton gouache from today to the 15th. But that is my art account. That is who I am, Raquel Kalpakoff. But yes, I have a website where I have photography and then paintings. So I'm actually going to switch to the one that I had before because I like it more and it's dry. So I'm going to move this out of the way so that I can shift. So we're going to get a little up close. So you can see, again, this is with one brush and it was it's a relatively large brush. And I was just getting the base down. This is what I do. And then I do a couple more layers. Eventually it gets more detailed. Okay, so now I'm going to switch to the dry version. It has a little more going on. Haven't used black, but I did use that purple that I mentioned. It's kind of funny. Didn't look at the other one, but they look pretty similar. But you can tell that there's that fun purple look, and it's dry, so it's flat, because the paper was starting to warp a little bit. So let's bring our little stuff back here. Okay. And reminder, Winsor Newton is what I mainly have been using. Okay. And we're back. Again, here I'm going to start with a little more pointed brush to get the details just a little bit. Again, I'm not going to have enough time to show you guys what I would do if I had, if I wasn't doing this live, just because I like to take my time sometimes. At least with gouache. With acrylic, it's really go fast. Thanks again for you guys joining, checking this out. Again, this is all in support of the local Art Central store. If any of you guys are local to SLO, it's a wonderful, wonderful art store. They carry some amazing products. Some great, so happy it's in SLO because they carry products that you can't get anywhere else local. But it is their 10-year anniversary, so all week they have been asking local artists to do demonstrations for various mediums, and I was lucky enough to be asked to do the gouache demonstration, so here I am. So when I'm doing the detail, I'm not super focused on getting it exactly like the photo, because I'm interpreting this the way that I want to, and I'm just kind of just getting the shadows and highlights, alternating between the shadows and the highlights until I get what I want. Usually I don't do black this early, but why not right now? Again, remember, if you have any questions, feel free to just ask me. I hopefully will be able to answer them. Yeah, so I guess it's starting to look more like a waterfall now. And the only difference between the one that I was showing you guys earlier and this one was that I added, I guess I didn't do that dark green or the black yet, but now I'm adding it here. And in this one I've added these purple highlights, or not highlights, additions to the rocks. So I really should stop using black. I shouldn't use this much of it, but then I messed up. It's okay. Again, this is not a painting for, I'm not going for, it's not going to turn out exactly the way I want, but it's more of just a fun little demonstration to show you guys my process. Honestly, it was kind of funny when they asked me to do this. They wanted me to show my process. I'm like, I don't even know my process. But when I broke it down, it's mainly just, I guess I'll do darker and then move my way to lighter and kind of alternate until it starts to take shape. Everyone's different, of course. Some people like to start with lights and with darks, start with darks and with lights, but I just don't want it, the colors to get, or the paper to get so wet and the colors all wet at the same time that they'll bleed together. That is my biggest nightmare. Okay. I'm actually going to bring this camera closer. There we go. Oh. Now, again, I said I was switching between highlights and shadows. Here I am going straight into highlights. Again, that's just me kind of going with whatever at the moment. This photo that I'm painting actually has a lot of meaning. Went on a little hike with someone, one of my best friends, and took me to a place that had a lot of meaning to them, and I got to take this photo. So it's really fun painting it right now. And now that I have a smaller brush, I kind of just throw in they're leaves. I'm not going to be able to locate where every single leaf is, especially from this distance. So I'm just adding some little spots. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to finish this in this short little live video. So I'm just kind of giving you guys a sneak peek at what's possible with gouache. Not totally loving it. I go in with some dark green really quick. Again, don't know how I managed to do it. Paint everywhere. Okay. This should even it out. The blacks are getting a little too dark for my liking. So if I bring in dark green and put it around it, it should blend it out just a little bit. So when I start getting into these leaves, I really, I guess I usually will do the darker colors first, and then I'll build my way up to the lighter colors. So I'm starting with this dark green. I guess you can't see, sorry about that. This dark green right here. And I'll build my way up to a lighter green, and then a lighter green, and then maybe yellow and some white. But one of the funs of gouache is being able to flip it and start with your lights and end with your darks. You can do what you want because it will layer on top of each other. Probably just gonna do a little bit more here, and I'm not gonna be able to finish, but very thankful for those of you that are here, because you're not just watching, supporting Art Central, local business. I'm gonna do some go and get some black. Darken up some areas really quick around the water. Haven't made any serious mistakes yet, so that's good. And I guess the only ones that I showed you guys were these small little 5x7 gouache paintings that I will do. But I also, I'll show you really quick, let that dry. Just have some more ones. Have some big pieces. They can look, just this small amount of paint can go a long way. So, and one of my favorite things about gouache is you don't need a lot. Paper, your paints, palette, brush, water. Not much. So sometimes I'll just kind of, it's a good travel medium. Watercolor, I would argue, is better, but watercolor and I don't always get along. What are your go-to brush sizes and styles? So, I really like rounded. Honestly, I have a couple square that I really, really love. This one I really, really like. Super soft. I'm not, like, totally well-versed in the names of the different shapes, but if I can show you. Sorry, it's not in focus. This one is my favorite by far. I just love how when it gets wet, it can come to a pretty solid point, but you can also flatten it out and get a lot of space at once. So like right now, if I want to blend this black in, guys, I'm just taking water. Blending, because the black's getting a little harsh, so I'm gonna blending in a little bit. See, again, I'm not going for the best looks. I'm just kind of showing you guys different techniques and different things that you can do. So you can see it's obviously blended now. Good and bad thing. I mean, it can be a good and bad thing based on what you want. I don't want these whites so strong, so I'll go blend them out a little bit. I guess I covered up most of the purple when I did the black, so I'm gonna have some left on my palette from previous. See, I'm just reactivating with some water. And then we bring in these Oops, sorry. Again, I did exactly what I was hoping not to do. Got it too wet, and now I'm gonna have to wait for it to dry. So I'll probably just add some highlights and then call this video good. Again, if you have any more questions, okay. See, I'm adding a light purple on top of a black. One of the joys of gouache and differences between watercolor. So, when adding new colors, it gets better, or gets worse sometimes before it gets better. So, this is obviously not where I would usually finish, but I just wanted to get you guys a little familiar with the medium and show a little bit of what's possible. Because this is a really, really fun medium, and out of all the gouache paints that I've used, Winsor and Newton is by far my favorite. Just a reminder, go to Art Central right now. Tell them the code Raquel, RAQUEL, and they will give you 35% off your Winsor Newton gouache purchase. Actually some water over here. I'm not sure how I feel about that, if I would keep that or not. Okay, I'm gonna do one last thing, and then taking some green. Don't wanna spend too much time mixing. I'm gonna take a smaller brush. Try and get this yellow to activate. Sometimes it just takes a while, but it will come back if you put water on it and blend it. I'm gonna add some white. That's pretty much what I was looking for. It'll probably be about here when I start doing a little more focus on the leaves and the detail. Again, I can go for a while, but I don't want to take too long. You can see it starts to get a little more texture to it, and of course, again, it's really watered down right now, so you can see it's not. It's showing the colors underneath, which can be great if it's what you're going for. At this moment, it's not really what I'm going for, but it'll work out. See, now it's just, okay, it's fine. You know, if you want to see the way this turns out, I will finish it up eventually and post it on my Instagram. It's artrocket.t, but ar.t.rocket.t. It's my Instagram. So if you wish to see the way that this eventually works out. Again, there's no wrong way to do this. You can tell I'm going over what I did, waiting for it to dry, and then going over it again. It's just kind of fiddling. Having some fun with it. We're gonna get lighter now. More yellow. Some white here, yellow here, and I'm just waiting for it to activate. As you can tell, I can't sit in one place on a painting for too long. A lot of people work their way across, but I don't have the patience for that. I like to do, I don't know, kind of just jump around and then eventually see how it works out. Starting to look a little better. Starting to look a little more like what I'm wanting, but still, again, using a pretty thick brush. So I like to start with the background with the bigger brush, work my way to a smaller area and a smaller brush. Whoop. Some yellow here. some dark purple. Again, don't always like using black or white. Actually, I usually don't like using black or white. Always some kind of color version. Okay, we're gonna go in with the smaller brush now, get a little bit of detail, just so I can show you guys. I'm gonna do my darks over my lights. When I start to do my details, that's when I'll work my way across and not jump around as much. Yeah, as you can see, these details will take a while. Especially because darks will dry lighter and lights will dry darker. You gotta sometimes do extra layers. Okay, well, again, thank you guys so much for joining. This has been really fun. Very thankful for all of your questions and your kind responses. Again, knew I wasn't gonna finish, but I'm pretty happy with how this is turning out. Remember, oh, can't see. Say, code Raquel, Art Central, 35% off, you guys. Winsor Newton Gouache from today, February 12th, until the 15th. Okay. That's where I'm going to end today. I will continue to paint, just not live. So thank you so much, all of you guys. And wishing a happy anniversary to Art Central and Slow. Bye, guys.